The French Empire, spanning several centuries, was one of the most influential and expansive empires in world history. From its early colonial endeavors in the Americas to its vast holdings in Africa and Asia, France's imperial ambitions shaped global politics, economics, and cultures. This script delves into the intricate history of the French Empire, exploring its origins, expansions, challenges, and legacy. Origins of French colonial ambitions. France's colonial pursuits began in the 16th century, driven by the desire for trade, wealth, and the spread of Christianity. The initial focus was on the Americas, where France established settlements in regions like Canada, New France, and the Caribbean. These early colonies laid the foundation for France's global imperial aspirations. The First French Colonial Empire, 16th to 18th century. Expansion into the Americas. In the early 17th century, France intensified its colonization efforts in North America. Samuel de Champlain founded Quebec in 1608, solidifying French presence in Canada. The French engaged in fur trade and established alliances with indigenous tribes, notably the Huron. Caribbean ventures. France also established colonies in the Caribbean, including Saint-Domingue, modern-day Haiti, Martinique, and Guadeloupe. These islands became lucrative sugar-producing colonies, relying heavily on enslaved African labor. Challenges and conflicts. The French faced competition from other European powers, especially Britain and Spain. Conflicts like the 7 Years' War, 1756 to 1763, resulted in significant territorial losses for France, including Canada and territories east of the Mississippi River, ceded to Britain. The Napoleonic era and the First French Empire, 1804 to 1815. Rise of Napoleon Bonaparte. In the aftermath of the French Revolution, Napoleon Bonaparte emerged as a prominent military leader. In 1804, he declared himself Emperor of the French, marking the beginning of the First French Empire. European dominance. Napoleon's military campaigns expanded French influence across Europe, establishing satellite states and spreading revolutionary ideals. However, his ambitions led to widespread conflicts, culminating in his defeat at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. The Second French Colonial Empire, 19th to 20th century. Renewed colonial expansion. Following Napoleon's fall, France shifted focus back to overseas expansion. The conquest of Algiers in 1830 marked the beginning of the Second French Colonial Empire. African colonization. France expanded its presence in Africa, establishing colonies in West and Central Africa, including Senegal, Mali, and Chad. These territories were integrated into French West Africa and French Equatorial Africa. Asian territories. In Asia, France established control over Indochina, comprising Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. These colonies became significant for their resources and strategic locations. Pacific and other territories. France also acquired territories in the Pacific, such as New Caledonia and French Polynesia, further extending its global reach. Administration and impact of the empire. Colonial governance. French colonies were administered through a centralized system, often imposing French culture, language, and legal systems on indigenous populations. The policy of assimilation aimed to integrate colonies into a greater French identity. Economic exploitation. Colonies provided raw materials and markets for French industries. Plantations, mining, and trade were developed, often exploiting local labor and resources. Cultural and social effects. While French colonization introduced infrastructure and education systems, it also disrupted traditional societies, leading to cultural erosion and social stratification. Decolonization and the fall of the empire. Post-World War II movements. After World War II, anti-colonial sentiments intensified. Colonies demanded independence, leading to conflicts and negotiations. Notable independence movements. Vietnam. The First Indochina War, 1946 to 1954, ended with the Geneva Accords, leading to the division of Vietnam and eventual independence. Algeria. The Algerian War of Independence, 1954 to 1962, was marked by brutal conflict, resulting in Algeria gaining independence in 1962. Peaceful transitions. Other colonies, such as those in West Africa, achieved independence through negotiations during the 1950s and 1960s. Legacy of the French Empire continued influence despite the end of formal colonial rule. France maintains cultural and political ties with former colonies through organizations like La Francophonie. Contemporary challenges France's colonial past continues to influence its domestic and foreign policies, with ongoing debates about immigration, integration, and historical memory.